Cars on the grid for the 5th round of the Nubrik Super Mini Series, a series of races throughout Victoria purely for mini-based touring cars, or sports sedans rather, because they're pretty far removed from anything that Alec Isigonis at Leyland ever designed. Most of these cars, space frames, special suspensions and so on, but very, very fast with sophisticated engines. And on the front row we have Alan Brazell there in car 71, and alongside him Darryl Gretrix, car 75. Second row another of the Mini World cars, but there we have the start.
This race over 10 laps, and a big field of the little bricks. And through the first corner, Alan Brazell, and Graham Smith moving up from third place on the grid to take second on the road.
Fantastic sight to see.
It's a relatively inexpensive form of motor racing, not the cheapest by any means, but relatively inexpensive. You're looking at $6,000 or $7,000 for these cars. Very fast, very good handling generally, and relatively easy to drive until you're going very fast like these are.
They become a little bit twitchy with the locked front axles, what have you, Paul.
That's right.
And they are basically an understeering motor car. The locked front end actually makes them understeer perhaps a little more. But through driving technique, they can throw the cars into the corner and get them coming through remarkably neutrally. And you'll notice the inside back little pop in the air, and they claw at the corners. And they're quite a spectacular little car. Let's face it, they're 20 years old.
That's right. Well, we've got the Mini World cars leading the race with Alan Brazell from Graham Smith. Graham Smith, who's leading the Nubrik series on 58 points. And going up on the inside of him there is Darryl Gretrix, who is in fact second in the series with 48 points. So this is a bit of a needle match for the series points. Alan Brazell a little bit out of it in 4th place on 43, but very, very close in on points really, I suppose, overall.
And Gretrix losing his third place to Andrew McIntyre.
Well, Andy McIntyre's car would have to be one of the most radical of these cars. A space frame, special wishbones front and rear, coil springs all round, a very highly developed Mini.
Andy was remarkably far back on the grid there. We were at the start of the race, but certainly making his presence felt at the moment.
Well, he's having a little bit of a go at Graham Smith. Graham, of course, is well known in the Mini Brigade for having the mother and father of all shunts here at Winton once, some time ago. They reckon he did at least 6 rolls in mid-air in his car. He's had 2 or 3 of those, but nevertheless a very, very fast driver in this Mini class. Cross-flow engine rather than normal Mini engine.
Yes, the telltale bulge at the front of the bonnet there, because the carburetors stick out the front of the engine with a cross-flow head instead of at the back in behind the speedometer. And you can tell that the front of most of those cars have a cross-flow cylinder head, which gives them about 145 horsepower, I think. Is that right, Paul?
Yes, a very, very high output from fairly, well, they're not small engines because they're anything up to 1,400, 1,500 even cc's. When the original engine was 1,275 cc's, that's quite a charge.
Well, of course, they're designed with 848 cc.
Yes, indeed.
The cars were quite a nippy little thing for then, but imagine them now with 145 horsepower versus about 35.
Long snake, very, very competitive, these cars. Chris Neal there in car 53. Car 9 there, Henry Draper.
KN, the English auto records car, I think it was.
Yeah. Race leader Alan Brazell. His teammate Graham Smith in second place, being hotly pressed by Andrew McIntyre, who's leading by up 6th on the grid. 3 laps gone, 7 to go.
All over the road. 3-4 deep in the corners. That's Mini racing. Always has been like that, and we hope it always will. Chris Neal seeming to dominate that bunch, but not without a lot of work from Doug Byrne in the old Paul Gulson car, that is.
That was a very quick car indeed, and of course I noticed Chris, who started his motor racing career along with me, as a matter of fact, about 10 years ago at this circuit, gently pushing that car into the dirt on the outside of the circuit, you know, good dirty tactics like that.
Well, that's Doug Byrne in car 25 there behind Chris Neal, the green car.
Trying very hard for a gap there, and he nearly got Chris, but he closed the gate.
Well, they very often make their own gap, don't they, Pete?
Yes. Opening a gate by force. But their lap times on this circuit are very, very competitive indeed. If you're going to design a circuit for a Mini, this is the circuit. It's got enough tight, twisty corners, changes of direction, where handling and nimbleness is at a premium. And at this circuit, I certainly would like to be taking one of these Minis to Toronto, for instance. You beat them handsomely at a fast circuit, but at a circuit like this, they are very fast indeed.
Well, there we had Doug Byrne experiencing oversteer with his car, and as he takes over that placing from Chris Neal. Would be 5th place, I would think, at this stage.
Yes. Well, the way to get these cars to oversteer, basically, is to come into the corner very quickly, lift your foot off the throttle, and allow the tail to gradually float out. And as soon as you accelerate again, the front wheels tend to start sliding and balance the whole car out. And the very quick drivers can float the car through the corners in a very neutral attitude to the corner. You notice this car of Alan Brazell's out front there. He's sort of floating it through, and it's looking very neat and clean indeed. And the same with the second and third place guys there.
It's Graham Smith and Andy McIntyre.
McIntyre's car certainly looks so low and neat. That was the most sophisticated car on the track at the moment, as we were saying earlier. It's got very heavily modified suspension, and the handling characteristics are such that it's more like a conventional touring car in its handling. Looking very neat and clean. I noticed that Andrew McIntyre is dispersed with his huge front spoiler he used to run.
I notice also he's using very large front wheels and small rear wheels. They're some weird and wonderful setups for these cars. A lot of them you're running equal sizes, but Andy McIntyre obviously thinks that's the magic tweak of the week.
Well, in our particular form of racing, we use a much larger tyre on the rear because we have, with the full power coming out of a corner, the tail tends to slide more to the front. And with a Mini, exactly the opposite prevails, being a front-wheel drive car and not having very much weight on the rear. So to balance the suspension, they have done it, in fact, or helped balance it with tyre sizes. And it could be a pretty good sort of tweak, because what a lot of them have done is they've fitted very hard compound tyres on one end and quite soft compound on the other to simply give better grip on the other. The other way of doing it, of course, is tyre sizes.
It's a highly specialised business tuning a Mini, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
There goes
Andy
Andy.
McIntyre through and away, and I think we might see him pull out a bit of a gap here. I think he was sort of being held up a little bit there, as a matter of fact.
Well, they're lapping at 67 seconds, which is 1 second outside the lap record for the Minis. 3.5 laps to go. But Alan Brazell has opened up a pretty big gap over Andy McIntyre.
Graham Smith isn't going to be left behind either now.
No, he seems to be coming out of the corners very nicely there. In the corner itself, the car of Andy McIntyre's looking pretty good, but whether it's horsepower or driving technique remains to be seen.
Well, Andy McIntyre's a very experienced driver in this class. He's been doing it possibly the longest of all of them, apart from Alan Brazell.
Bit of a glance in the mirror there to wonder if he should block or he had enough room to go into the next right-hander. As he came up the straight, you could see him glancing over, thinking, well, is this bloke going to attempt an inside run down the grass or not?
There's a contrast with this Mini just ahead of them now, which is virtually a standard-looking car. And when you see them alongside one another, there's hardly any similarity at all.
No, and they can go around the outside of them through a fast corner, and that's a fantastic difference in handling.
Graham Smith hanging on to that 3rd place, and I think a little eager perhaps to get back 2nd.
Yes, and I think he's looking at a bit of a threat there at the moment. Andrew, of course, will not be easy to pass, but
I think we watch his rear wheel, the Graham Smith rear wheel here. He was lifting it quite a lot through these lessons. The inside rear wheel. Just watch it here, perhaps. That's Andy McIntyre. It's a slow part. At the end of the back straight, coming through the first right-hander, I noticed early on the rear wheel was well in the air.
Skipping there now.
Yes.
You can just see daylight there. to get the handling very neutrally set up, the idea is to make the rear of the car quite a stiff roll stiffness, as a matter of fact, to balance it out, to make it slide a little bit easier. And different drivers have done this over the years via stiff one end and very loose the other. And at the moment you can see that they'll have the front of the car gripping very, very well, and then to induce the tail to slide, this very heavy sway bar, stabiliser bar at the rear, and you can see it hopping and jumping around the back there.
Well, there we're lapping Neil Remus in one of the nearest standard middies. Again, he got out of the way well. Alan Brazell, the leader, through the S's.
Looking very neat and clean, very neat.
And the second and third cars with Graham Smith back in second place. Andy McIntyre third. So you were right, he was looking for that, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Andrew didn't pull out the way I thought he would, and it seemed as if possibly Graham Smith miscued coming into the long left-hand Datsun sweeper, allowing Andrew to nip through on the inside. So if Andrew can repeat it again on this side, but I'd say that he won't repeat that same mistake again. No, he's in and through and running.
This will be a valuable 18 points for Graham Smith if he can hang on to this second place. And the car, in fact, this is its last race. He's going into something new following this event. Cars to be sold.
Half a lap to go, and this is the battle for second place behind Alan Brazell.
Alan Brazell has certainly made his presence felt since coming back from the conventional car ranks. He raced a Ford Escort recently, and coming back in the mini ranks, he's certainly run away with this race.
Now, what's all that about? Waving his arms around there, Graham Smith.
And Alan Brazell coming up to get the checkered flag at the end of 10 laps in the Nubrik mini series race. And it's still on for second. But Smith got there. So the place getters in the mini race, the winner in 71, Alan Brazell, from teammate Graham Smith in car 64, and in third place, car 29, Andy McIntyre. And that